My safe house has finally taken in a second woman. She's actually married to my good FR. Furthermore, she also has a baby who is a few months old. After setting fire to Building 5 in the neighborhood, I hurried back to check on Uncle Yu's injuries. Watching the stable waveforms on the ECG monitor, I breathed a sigh of relief. It looks like Uncle Yu's life is saved, and I no longer have to feel guilty. I reassured Jokar, who had been busy for a long time. You've really worked hard. But Jokar, full of a sense of accomplishment, shook her head and said, being able to help brother, John, Yi, and solve problems for him is my blessing. The atmosphere between Jokar and me was unusually intimate. When Zilitin suddenly approached, holding her child, she put on a pitiful expression and said, Brother Zhang Yi, my baby hasn't eaten all day. Could you please find something for us to eat? I look at this woman with mockery and contempt in my eyes. If it weren't for considering Mr. Yi, I would probably throw this troublesome woman into the snow outside. I casually took a box of instant noodles from my alternate space and threw it on the ground. Take this to eat. After all, you're Uncle Yu's woman. I won't let you starve. Zilitin was stunned by the sight. What kind of magic is this? She wondered. I just don't feel like dealing with that disgusting woman. Instead, I turn around and hug Shokur, planning to go back to the room with her to study software and hardware engineering. To my surprise, this shameless woman actually caught up and asked, I just saw eggs and leftover chicken bones in the kitchen. Are you intending to feed them to my daughter and me? I impatiently turned to look at Zilitin. If you don't want to eat, then forget it. Seeing my displeased expression, Zilitin didn't dare to say anything more. After I finished getting ready with Shokar, she also smiled and asked, Did Zilitin cause you a lot of trouble? I crouched down and replied casually, She's just a woman who plays mind games. Nothing more. As I said this, I helped pinch Shokashin's foot. Shukair's face immediately turned slightly red. I've been standing all day. My feet might smell. Shukair hesitated to speak. My smile gradually turned evil. I just love this feeling. But seeing Shokar looking so worn out, I'll spare her for today. I then asked about Mr. Yu's injury. His injuries were severe, and he had lost a lot of blood. I was almost giving up, but in a moment, his body suddenly underwent a subtle change. His heart rate began to gradually normalize, and even the bleeding reduced rapidly. When I heard that, I was shocked. I have personally experienced such supernatural phenomena, and it's very possible that Uncle Yu has awakened some kind of special ability. I have been thinking about this for a long time. Cosmic rays could give me superpowers, and maybe not just me, but many others too. I suddenly stood up when I thought of this. Uncle Yu's situation is exactly the same as my near-death experience. Could near-death be a prerequisite for activating superpowers? But if awakening doesn't have the ability to heal injuries, then you would still die after awakening. In that case, the conditions for activating superpowers seem too harsh. If Uncle Yu had not met me, even if he had awakened his superpower, he would surely have died. I immediately instructed Jokar to keep a close eye on Uncle Yu's condition and administer muscle relaxants or sedatives daily without jeopardizing his safety but controlling his mobility. Jokar's face was full of surprise. Could it be that Uncle Yu has also developed some kind of special ability? I sighed and shrugged my shoulders, saying that I'm just guessing based on my intuition. Have you watched the movie The Incredible Hulk? He also underwent a mutation caused by gamma radiation. If Uncle Yu also turns into the Hulk and loses control of his emotions, our safe house would probably be demolished instantly. For safety reasons, I reminded Shokur to carefully observe and make sure that any changes he experiences are within manageable limits before feeling reassured. The task of taking care of Uncle Yu is handed over to Zilitin. Although she is an annoying woman, she's not that foolish. She surely understands that if anything happens to Uncle Yu, I would immediately kick her out. I walked out of Shokur's room and saw Zilitin sneaking around and looking around, not knowing what she wanted to steal. I called out loudly to stop her. Shelton, from now on, you will live with Uncle Yu and take care of him. Shelton could only obediently enter the room. After dealing with things at home, the next step is to catch the mole. I walked out of the door fully armed, but the entire building was empty at that moment. I came to Wang Min's house on the 18th floor. Fan Yiqing and Lin Cainin should live here. I took out my gun and fired 2 shots at the door lock. Then I kicked the door open. Before I could step into the room, I suddenly heard a scream. A disheveled woman was holding a kitchen knife and rushing towards me, ready to attack. I calmly used the riot shield to block in front of me. The person swinging the weapon was weak and ineffective. Not only did I feel no danger, but the recoil actually knocked her back. I looked at Fan Yiqing lying on the ground with a playful expression on my face. Long time no see. Two-faced. No wonder you're still alive. You're using your best friend as food. Fan Yiqing's eyes were white with rage. Zhang Yi, why are you still alive? Those useless fools. So many of them couldn't take you down. What kind of demon are you? I picked up a baseball bat and looked at Fan Yiqing. who seemed neither human nor ghost. Do you really think you can deal with me just by teaming up with Wang Qian and persuading those two guys to betray me? You were way too naive. Fang Yiqing is screaming hysterically. You pursued me for 2.5 years, and I was actually ready to say yes and be your girlfriend. Why did you suddenly give up? What's even more infuriating is that you chose that despicable woman. You're such a loser, not even able to handle this little test. I laughed coldly and raised the baseball bat in my hand and smashed it against Fang Yicheng's calf, starving her into skin and bones. The calf bone will be broken once smashed. Next, I grabbed her hair and dragged her to the window. Fang Yicheng begged for mercy and showed a strong desire to survive, which allowed her to live until now in this apocalyptic world. Zhang Yi, please spare me. I don't want to die. Completely ignoring her, he picked up the frail girl as if she were a deflated doll. I let go, and a horrifying scream echoed throughout the entire neighborhood. Looking out from the windows, I saw a human-shaped crater in the snow below. I let out a sigh. I am just kind, letting her off so easily. It's really letting her off the hook. The next day, I had Zhou Car give Uncle Yu a physical checkup. The results surprised Zhou Car, as Uncle Yu recovered very quickly, with a self-healing rate of more than 10 times that of an average person. Upon hearing that, I am even more convinced that Uncle Yu has truly awakened his special ability. After administering the sedative to Uncle Yu, Ziliting suddenly came over. Zhang Yi, I didn't bring my phone charger, and my baby needs diapers. Do you have these things here? She asked. Ziliting had an air of entitlement, completely acting as if she belonged here. It seemed she intended to stay long-term. She probably thought that since I owed her man a life, I was obligated to take care of her and her family. I glanced at Uncle Yu on the sit with my peripheral vision, and vaguely remembered that people can also hear sounds when they are unconscious. To ensure Uncle Yu's loyalty, I responded to Ziliting with a smile. I have other things to take care of right now. I'll go to your place and get your things after I'm done. After leaving her with some food and water, I locked them back in the small room. At this point, I vaguely had a plan in mind, that I needed to find a solution to deal with this troublesome woman. Afterward, I fully armed myself and gathered all the neighbors. We began systematically clearing out the remaining apartment buildings, one by one. Based on the intelligence gathered last night, I had already identified the building involved in the attack on me. Out of the 30 apartment buildings in the neighborhood, 12 have now been thoroughly cleared. The remaining buildings are inhabited by individuals who are weaker and non-aggressive. Continuing the cleanup would only be a waste of manpower and resources. Just as I was about to turn back, a figure suddenly broke away from the crowd and walked towards me. It turned out to be Su Hao, the former trust fund baby in the neighborhood. Su Hao quickly stated his intention, saying that he had important information to report. I thought to myself that I had settled the entire neighborhood, so what could possibly be important? Right after that, Su Hao lowered his voice and whispered, Zhang Yi, have you heard of the secret construction of a super shelter by the ultra-wealthy, second-to-generation Wang Ximing, who spent $1 billion on it? This moment sparked my curiosity, as there have indeed been rumors about this in the past. A few social celebrities started to build shelters when post-apocalyptic sci-fi movies became extremely popular over a decade ago. The news that occupied the trending topics for months back then was about Wang Ximing, the only son of the wealthiest man in Huaguo. He spent $1 billion to build a super shelter that was claimed to withstand a nuclear bomb attack. Do you happen to know the location of that shelter? Su Hao said. There are too many people here and it's noisy. Let's go back to building 25 first. As soon as I arrived at building 25, I crossed my arms and said to Su Hao, can we talk now? Su Hao didn't dare to hesitate as he understood my personality. The shelter of Wang Ximing is actually located in our Tianhai City's Yunzhui Manor. I have also heard about this community before. It is one of the top 4 most expensive villa areas in Tianhai City. I looked at Su Hao with a playful expression on my face. Buttering up someone without any reason is either for malicious intent or thievery. So, what's your motive for telling me this news? Su Hao pounded his chest and said, I'm telling you this information because I want to follow you and help you take down this shelter. The condition is that you let me accompany you and provide me with food and shelter. I laughed when I heard your words. Although this shelter is very appealing to me, do you think I'm a fool? Do you really believe that you can conquer such a top-notch shelter with just a couple of guns? As soon as these words were spoken, Su Hao panicked. He didn't expect me to be so cautious. He immediately blurted out an important piece of information. News about you owning a snowmobile has been widely known for a while now. A few days ago, Wang Ximing suddenly contacted him and suggested that I lure you there so that they can seize your snowmobile and supplies. Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat, and I stared at him with murderous intent in my eyes. Seeing this, Su Hao hurriedly waved his hands and explained, even if you gave me 10 cuts, I wouldn't dare to agree. I flashed a wicked, cold smile. Who knows if you're just playing games with me? As soon as I finished speaking, I pressed my pistol against Su Hao's forehead. If you dare lie to me, I'll blow your your brains out. Terrified, Su Hao screamed at the top of his lungs. Brother Zhang, don't kill me. What I'm telling you is absolutely true. With a loud bang, the gunshot rang out. Su Hao's pupils contracted and his body went limp. I hadn't hit his head. The bullet had merely whizzed past his ear. Yet Su Hao was so terrified that he nearly fainted. I slowly squat down and stare into his eyes. Give me a satisfactory explanation that can make me believe you're not plotting with Wang Ximing to set a trap for me. This way, you still have a chance to survive. Su Hao struggled to catch his breath and calm his emotions. I believe that with your skills, it shouldn't be difficult to handle that arrogant Wang Ximing. The most important thing is, we don't have much personal animosity between us. In comparison, I really hope that despicable Wang Ximing dies sooner rather than later. I suddenly got interested. Aren't you guys friends? Su Hao gritted his teeth and continued. My dad's publicly traded company is worth billions. By rights, I should be considered a prominent figure in Tianhai City. However, due to our family business connections, the Wang family is our biggest benefactor. In other words, our family has to rely on the Wang family's goodwill for our livelihood. In front of him, I not only had to live humbly, but even when he took a liking to my woman, I had to hand her over to his bed. Over time, I became his pimp and ultimately became a laughingstock in the circle of wealthy, second-generation individuals in Tianhai City. As I listened to all the gossip, I noticed a look of humiliation in Su Hao's eyes. I looked at him calmly and asked, "So, how do you plan to cooperate with me?" Su Hao immediately perked up when he saw my interest. "Let's play a little game. I'll pretend to deceive you and persuade Wang Ximing to open the door. With your skills, it will be a piece of cake to eliminate that spoiled brat. With such a heavily funded shelter, there must be many anti-invasion facilities in place. Can you tell me about the armed situation inside?" Su Hao suddenly fell silent and said, "Unless you promise to let me follow you and ensure my future well-being, I won't say a word. Otherwise, I have nothing to disclose." Su Hao knew very well that if he revealed all the information, he would lose all his value. "Since you've left me with no choice, I might as well spill the beans." Su Hao trembled as he quickly said, "I know that soon you're going to wipe out everyone in the neighborhood. The information about this shelter is my only hope to survive. I can't believe this rich second-generation actually saw through my thoughts. After a moment's consideration and weighing the pros and cons, it seems you are a little smart. I can agree to let you hang out with me, but you also need to pass a few tests from me first." When he heard it, Su Hao's tense nerves suddenly relaxed. He knew that it was a high-stakes gamble, and if Zhang Yi refused, he could immediately lose his life. He quickly nodded repeatedly and said that he could face any test. "Please tell me. First, you must clearly explain all the details about the shelter, especially the security systems and firepower facilities," I said. Su Hao nodded repeatedly, as he had visited the shelter before and knew all the details well. "Secondly, I need you to help me take care of someone it's inconvenient for me to kill personally. As for the final challenge, I'll go upstairs to get something for you first." Soon after, I arrived in front of Su Hao carrying a suitcase. Su Hao was immediately stunned. He wondered if there were some spy equipment inside the mysterious suitcase. While I was opening the box, I was teasing Su Hao. "I reckon you've also guessed that my identity is not ordinary. In my early years, I was undefeated in Southeast Asia with my skills in free fighting, and even dominated karate masters in Japan for 3 consecutive years. Later, I joined the French mercenaries and wandered in the Middle East, earning the nickname Half Fox. A few years ago, I retired from the arena and changed my identity to become a warehouse manager." Su Hao felt his scalp go numb, thinking back to my incredible gun skills and lethal killing methods that I had shown before. He had no doubt that everything I said was true and felt very fortunate that he had chosen to join my team. He knew that following a real boss like me would definitely have a brighter future than following someone like Wang Ximing, who was just a spoiled child. I pulled out a syringe from the box and said, "When I was working as a mercenary, we often had to deal with tricky prisoners, and we had some special methods for that." I held the syringe up to Su Hao's eyes, the needle filled with blue liquid. Su Hao immediately thought it was poison and asked Zhang Yi, "What are you doing?" "Don't worry, I won't take your life. This is a slow-acting poison we commonly use. If you want me to fully trust you, let me give you an injection. This drug will take effect in a week. Once I take over Wang Ximing's shelter, I'll naturally give you the antidote," I said, as I injected the needle into his neck. Su Hao clutched his neck, feeling the world spinning around him. I put my arm around Su Hao and said calmly, "There's no need to panic. This is just to ensure we can cooperate more smoothly. After all, if you set me up, you'll die too. Once we take over the shelter, I'll give you the antidote. I promise to provide you with ample supplies to keep you well fed and warm. Time is of the essence. As soon as you get back, please contact Wang Ximing, and we can discuss the details over the phone." Watching Su Hao panting and trembling as he went downstairs, I also breathed a slight sigh of relief in my heart. This is not a poison at all. It's just a supplement. that can cause similar toxic reactions. This ensures that the guy won't have any crooked thoughts. After returning to the safe house, I used the surveillance to check the situation in the ward. Uncle Yu seemed to have woken up while Ziliting was whispering something to him softly. This troublesome woman must be playing some tricky tricks again. Seeing me open the door, Ziliting suddenly stood up, looking guilty as she pretended to soothe her child. Uncle Yu is still feeling a bit weak right now. Thank you so much, Brother Zhang Yi, for helping us out. We're fortunate to have you and Dr. Zhou Kar. Otherwise, I might not have made it. What's the situation outside now? I smiled and comforted Uncle Yu. You can rest assured and focus on getting better. These people are just a bunch of unorganized individuals and pose no threat to me. At this moment, Ziliting cut in with a sarcastic tone, saying that it was because of you that my husband has become like this. Don't forget his kindness. We will rely on you in the future as a family of 3. In front of Uncle Yu, I agreed with a full mouth. Don't worry, even though I was wearing a bulletproof vest at the time, I will never forget the kindness of Uncle Yu, who risked his life to save me. I will take responsibility for your future life. Upon hearing this, Ziliting was overjoyed inside. You promised this yourself. You can't go back on your word, she exclaimed. I had already seen through Ziliting's little schemes. She pushed her luck further, saying, we didn't bring our daily necessities, and the baby's diapers need changing. Brother Zhang Yi, could you go get them for me? Upon hearing this, I politely declined and explained that I was already exhausted from a busy day, and also that I wasn't familiar with your house and might have trouble finding things. So I suggested that perhaps you could go yourself. Ziliting hesitated for a long time, then pretended to joke with me, saying, when I go to get the things, you better not lock me out. When I come back, I'll be right back. I smile and say, of course, your uncle still needs your help. Why wouldn't I open the door for you? Ziliting put on her clothes and smiled wryly, and suddenly handed me the child. Can you help me hold for a while? It's cold outside, and I am carrying my child, making it difficult for me to carry things. She knew very well that neither I nor Zhou Kuer could take care of the child. As long as she left the baby with us, I had no choice but to let her in. I took a glance at the newborn in the swaddling clothes and was touched by its tender face. I originally planned to get rid of both you and your daughter, but I just can't bring myself to harm a child. I'll find a woman to adopt the child instead. At the same time, I immediately informed Su Hao. The target has left. Find an opportunity to resolve it. At this moment, Ziliting arrived at Uncle Yu's doorstep. Just as she opened the door and was about to step inside, Su Hao had already been lying in ambush with a kitchen knife for a long time. Ziliting didn't even have a chance to resist. With a splashing sound, blood gushed out like a fountain. Ziliting's face was filled with fear and confusion. Besides the terror of death, her eyes also showed a reluctance and concern for her child. Worried that she might not be completely dead, Su Hao cruelly inflicted another 23 stab wounds. Only after confirming that Ziliting showed no signs of life did it finally stand up. Afterwards, Su Hao quickly reported the results of the battle to me and asked for food. Seeing the message from Su Hao, I immediately put on an act. Smiling at the weak Uncle Yu, I said, you can rest easy and stay here from now on. Once you recover and the child is a bit older, you can move back to your own home. Uncle Yu is overwhelmed with gratitude. I feel a bit embarrassed about this. Having 3 more people will definitely increase the consumption of resources, so once I've recovered a bit, I'll move out and stop causing you trouble. Little did they know, based on Zhou Care's examination, Uncle Yu has actually almost recovered. Now, he feels completely weak and relaxed due to the muscle relaxant. I patted Uncle Yu's shoulder and said, you just focus on getting better. I'll take care of everything else. Just then, the baby in my arms suddenly cried loudly, which made me feel helpless, because I have no experience taking care of children. Uncle Yu was also helpless. After all, the child wasn't his biological offspring and had always been cared for by Ziliting. Feeling helpless, I hurried to Zhou Kuer's room and put the child into her arms. You're a doctor. Can you please think of a way to calm her down for a while? Maybe you can try giving her a sedative injection or some sleeping pills if necessary. Upon hearing this, Zhou Kuer's face was filled with confusion. These medications will cause great harm to the baby's body. Zhou Karen was holding her child with a bewildered expression on her face. Suddenly, I thought that maybe it was time to change the baby's diaper. Her mother had gone home to get some diapers. With that in mind, I casually took out a pack of diapers from the other dimension and threw it to Zhou Kuer. The child is now in your care. Zhou Kuer was completely speechless. Next, I turned and went to Uncle Yu, asking if he felt any strange changes in his body. He had no idea that what I had Zhou Kuer inject him with was a muscle relaxant. Yoda replied, now I feel weak all over and the wound itches. This is a good thing. It means the wound is healing. This leads me to conclude that Uncle Yu's ability is not immune to the effects of drugs, and he most likely possesses a power-based ability. Later, I chatted with Uncle Yu for a while, seeing that Zilitin had not returned yet. Uncle Yu couldn't help but worry. He wondered why she hadn't come back for so long. Could she have encountered some danger? I pretended to be nervous and stood up. It's very chaotic outside now, with people fighting between buildings. This is not good. Zilitin may be in danger. I quickly called Zhou Kuer and asked her to take care of Uncle Yu. I'm going out to take a look. Fully armed, I immediately notified the neighbors in the owner's group chat to gather in apartment 1301 to discuss the distribution of supplies. First come, first served. I also informed Suhao that if he doesn't want to die, he should stay at home and not move. Soon, all the neighbors gathered in room 1301. They were all excited and talking about imagining a future of peace and prosperity. Everyone was chatting and exchanging ideas, and even people from other floors were impressed. We decided that each person would be responsible for managing one building, and people from other units would serve as our helpers. Zhang Yi will keep looking for supplies for us and ensure our safety. He's really thoughtful. Little did they know that I had already been eavesdropping at the door for a while. It's quite amusing how these doomed people still have such fanciful thoughts. I took out 2 grenades from a parallel dimension and threw them through the door slit. As they stared at the rolling object in the room, they didn't have time to react. 2 massive explosions echoed throughout the entire neighborhood. Flames instantly engulfed the room, and the dancing people inside were blown away in an instant. I stepped into the room and scanned the area, taking in the scattered remains and various dismembered limbs strewn about. There is only one survivor left, and he doesn't understand why you, whom we followed with such loyalty, had to be so ruthless. I didn't waste time with him and just shot 3 times to send him away. At this point, all of my enemies from my past life had been completely eliminated. Only 5 people are alive in Building 25 now, and the path of revenge has finally come to an end. Without any obstacles in my heart, I suddenly feel that the world has become much clearer, and even my breath instantly becomes smoother and more comfortable. The next task is to take down that $1 billion shelter. Afterwards, I walked into Uncle Yu's hospital room with a sad expression on my face. Uncle Yu, I have some good news and some bad news to tell you. The bad news is that Shirley. Uncle Yu looks nervous, as if he has already sensed that something has happened. What's wrong with Li Tin? I punched the wall in frustration. Although I dealt with the 2 traitors who were plotting against me, some of the remaining neighbors had secretly colluded with people from other units. They planned to seize my supplies and house. Li Tin accidentally stumbled in. It was brutally murdered by those bastards. Uncle Yu closed his eyes in pain and fiercely punched the bed. With a loud bang, the steel-made bed was smashed into a deep hole. I hurriedly comforted Uncle Yu. It's all my fault for not detecting those bastards' conspiracy in time. However, I've already taken care of all of them, so at least Zilitin's death has been avenged. I watched as Uncle Yu punched a big hole, and it seemed like his ability is power-oriented, which complements my ability perfectly. I won't have to worry about not having anyone to help with physical work in the future. It seems like I need to work harder to win over Uncle Yu. Uncle Yu clenched his fists and said, "These damn bastards, you've done so much for them, but they still repaid your kindness with ingratitude. They deserve to die." I sincerely told Uncle Yu that I also take responsibility for this matter, but I didn't expect them to be so crazy. However, don't be too pessimistic. I have good news to tell you. I'm ready to help you find a young, beautiful wife who is skilled in technology. Uncle Yu remained silent for a moment, blushing, and then slowly spoke up. I actually prefer someone a bit more mature. Uncle Yu also immediately understood. After all, they were originally a couple who got together by chance. He was only with Zilitin because he was attracted to her body, but later he gradually developed feelings for her. At this moment, Zhou Cafe rushed in holding the crying child and said, "Brother Jiangyi and Uncle Yu, I don't know what to do." The child has been crying incessantly. The 2 of them glanced at each other and instantly found themselves confused. I immediately looked at the 2 soft things on Zhou Kuer. Maybe because I was hungry. Zhou Karen blushed and explained excitedly, "I haven't had a baby, so how could I have milk? I'm looking at the baby in the crib, and it seems like we need to find a reliable person to adopt this little one. I can provide some daily necessities for them, but since none of us have experience, it might not be enough." Then I packed up some supplies and walked towards Building 18, holding my child. The whole neighborhood is now incredibly quiet. The neighbors in Building 18 watched me walk slowly towards them, fear evident in their eyes. Is Zhang Yi coming to kill us? They wondered. I walked to the bottom of Building 18, raised my gun, and fired 2 shots into the air. "Li Jian, get down here!" I shouted. In a short while, Li Jian walked out with his thin and weak body, but he still held his head high and had no trace of fear in his eyes. "Zhang Yi, why are you still looking for me?" I carefully examined the middle-aged man. "Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you?" I asked. Li Jian said calmly, "I have long been indifferent to life and death. Now I just want to use my own abilities to protect the people in my building." I held my child in front of Li Jian Jian, despite appearing thin and weak. Li Jian still held his head high and chest out. Aren't you afraid of me? Li Jian swallowed a mouthful of saliva. So what if you were here to kill us? But I don't think you are. You didn't bring your neighbors with you. And you're even holding a child. I nodded in agreement when I heard you speak. You were indeed a wise person, foreseeing through my purpose for this visit. There must be a mother who is currently breastfeeding among the many residents in this building. A spark of excitement flashed in Li Jian's eyes. As he saw a chance to live from my words, he quickly nodded repeatedly and gave a positive answer. He knew that Zhang Yi needed help and, in exchange, perhaps the people in his building could avoid being harmed. Then I threw my backpack on the ground behind me. It contained some children's essentials and some food. I patted Li Jian's shoulder. This kid was brought here by me personally. If you don't raise him properly, you should understand the consequences yourselves. Li Jian heard my threatening words and quickly made promises to take good care of the child. Then, he called a woman to come and take the child away, and a few men also cooperatively moved the living supplies into the building. I looked at the harmonious and orderly scene. I asked Li Jian with a frown, "How many people are still living in your building?" Li Jian replied with a hint of satisfaction and crossed his arms. "There are still 66 people. What are your plans next?" "I won't provide any more food for you," Li Jian confidently responded. "Where there's a will, there's a way. We've persevered this far, and I firmly believe that there is always a solution to every problem." Pointing at the charred apartment building nearby, I said, "There are a lot of burned bodies inside. That should be enough to feed you for a long time." Li Jian looked at this with a disdainful expression and firmly shook his head. "We will never take that step. If we do, we will definitely choose to die with dignity rather than live without humanity." As I listened to Li Jian's resolute words, I fell into deep thought. At that moment, I suddenly felt a great respect for the man standing in front of me. At such a difficult time, to still remain true to oneself. I smiled slightly, and to be honest, you are the first person in the apocalypse that I admire. Li Jian let out a long sigh and said, "I'm just doing the best I can. Compared to you, I'm far behind." So, at this point, Li Jian gathered up the courage to make an attempt. "You were able to provide food for 300 people before, and now there are around 300 survivors in the entire community. You certainly have the ability to help everyone survive." I let out a silly laugh, turned around, and prepared to leave. "I'm not a deity and cannot save the world. Even if I temporarily rescue them, they might not necessarily be grateful towards me. When someone helps you out a little, you feel thankful, but if they keep offering you significant help, it might make you feel resentful, because it could seem like they're looking down on you or trying to control you. In these trying times, the most important thing is to look out for yourself. I don't have grand aspirations or a lofty sense of self-importance. I just want to live a good life and have 8 to 10 beautiful children with my lovely sister Joker.